Hello my friends, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink, this time with a non-Stamptember exclusive video. Just trying to fit these in amidst all the other editing. So, I'm actually the hostess of this week's Color Throwdown Challenge. I will have a link to that in my blog post if you guys are interested in checking it out. We just do it for fun. And it is very neutral colors this week. So black, gray, craft, and cream, which even though I'm the hostess and I picked this color combo, it threw me for a loop. But as you know, I started thinking about it and then I was like, ooh, I got some ideas. So I pulled out the Simon Says Stamp Etched Layered Daisy wafer dies. And I die cut them a couple times each from some white cardstock. And then I took some Copic markers. I used like E42? I actually have the actual colors here. Yeah, E42 and E40. So just very light, sort of beige cream colors. And use those to add a bit of, depth to these petals while still keeping it fairly neutral, like fairly, daisy sort of colors. And then for the flower centers, I'm going to use neutral grays and only color the ones with the detail because they're going to get layered. There's no point coloring the other one. So again, just kept it simple. So with the centers, I just went in with the lightest color and then I'm going to dot in the darker colors, which I've talked about a lot this month. Dotting with markers. It's just a great way to add texture and like layer up things. And you don't have to think about it too much. And it, especially with something like this, like with a die cut that like cuts in the detail as well. Like these wafer dies cut those details in the petals and then all the little details into the center. So that also kind of absorbs some of the ink as well in different ways. So you get some really fun little texture doing stuff like that. So once I had those colored, I'm going to layer them together. And then I'd also, like off camera, like I did all my die cutting, everything before I even started to film. Mostly because, literally, you guys, like I use a Spellbinder's Platinum machine, which is the biggest die cut machine. It's a beast. And it doesn't fit on my work surface, like where I film right here. This square foot of space. So that's why I rarely show die cut. I literally have an extra, like, the regular Platinum 6 machine that I used to, like, I would pull that out to use for videos, but it just, man. So yeah, things will get dealt with so I can kind of show properly on camera. But anywho, I had done all my die cutting. I used the Bold Thanks wafer die. This one I've used like a million times. It's just one of my favorites. And I die cut it multiple times from black cardstock. And then I'm going to stack all these layers together because word wafer dies, they just need that dimension. It makes a huge difference. So stacked those together. And then I had also used the Etched Meadow flowers and leaves, but I only used the leaves. Die cut those. I'll get to that in a second. And I used the Crystal Distortion 3D embossing folder. And I had actually done when I did the Stamptember release and review video at the beginning of the month. I keep all those panels because I do them with Desert Storm cardstock, and Desert Storm cardstock is life. I had someone comment and they're like, I'm finally on the Desert Storm train. I'm just like, took you long enough. It is a perfect neutral, really. Like, you have your black and your white, you have some grays, but like Desert Storm should just be in every card maker's arsenal because it goes with everything. It's such a nice cardstock. Seriously. So I had used the 3D embossing folder on that. So it just gives it that texture, and then I trimmed it down a bit. And then, yeah, I used the Etched Meadow flowers and leaves, but only the leaves. And I die cut some gray cardstock. So I've got everything die cut, set that aside because I had to add splatter. I wasn't gonna, and then I was like, oh, it needs splatter. So I have some Vintage Photo Distress Oxide spray. With the Oxide sprays, with any spray that has like a pigments in it or shimmer, anything like that, you need to shake the ever-living daylights out of them before you use them. You want to mix up anything that is settled in the bottom, pigments, micas, glitters, whatever. It needs to be, suspended in the liquid. That is the biggest way to avoid your nozzles getting clogged. And if they do get clogged, you can pull them off, soak them in hot water. You may have to get different nozzles. It just depends. But to avoid that, shake them up really, really well. So that's what I did. And then I splattered it on my background. Oxides especially have a funny way of, like, when you use them as just a splatter, the way they dry, they'll like oxidize and stuff. And then I also added my go-to white gouache splatter that I have just in a random little palette here on my desk, because I just keep reactivating it with water, and then splattered it. So I did all that. And then my little companion sentiments are from the All the Thanks sentiment strips. So I did no stamping for these cards. They were all die cuts and sentiment strips, which is kind of nice sometimes. So I decided to tint these with just one of the neutral gray Copic markers. That's one of the nice things with these is you can use Copics, you can use watercolors, you could use inks, you know, distress inks, all the things. I would be a little careful if you're going to use watercolors to tint these, just to be careful, because it's not watercolor paper these are printed on. These are just printed on Simon's smooth white cardstock. So too much liquid will, you know, make the cardstock go funny. But markers and that sort of thing work great. So I tinted them gray just to give them a little bit of a different look. And then my card base is Simon's cream cardstock. So this will be a top folding A2 sized card. So scored that with my Teflon bone folder to make my card base. And then I'm going to start like adhering all of the elements together. So just some craft tacky glue. Going to adhere the embossed panel with all the splatter on it to a piece of black cardstock that I'd cut to slightly larger than that. So it just kind of mats it nicely. And then the two large etched daisies happen to just kind of stick together, like the petals kind of interwound, which was perfect. I was like, yeah, this looks nice. I like it. I'm just going to adhere it like this. So again, craft tacky glue. Because I'm adhering on top of something that's been 3D embossed, you sometimes have to fiddle with it a bit and like hold it down a little bit so that the glue has a chance to, like, you know, grip and adhere. And then I did the same thing with the thanks sentiment. And then with the leaves, I just kind of tucked them under the petals and trimmed off little, you know, bits here and there just to make them fit. And then just little tiny dabs of craft tacky glue. So just a few little snips, a few little tucks, a little bit of glue, and then those are good to go. And they just kind of bring out more of that gray. So tuck those in, and then the little sentiment strip, I'm just going to adhere with some 3D foam squares that I trimmed down, and then adhere this to my card base. So get that stuck into place. And then after I've got that adhered, I'm going to adhere, I had this remaining little leaf sprig, and I was like, oh, perfect. That'll just give the inside a little something. So adhere that into place, and then my other little sentiment strip, so that the inside, oh, it's got to have something. So get that adhered into place. And then I took my scissors and trimmed off the flower petals and whatnot that were hanging off the edge of the card so that this will still fit in an A2 sized envelope. So I just used the edge of the card base as my guide to get a straight cut. And then of course I'm going to add bling. Like I've told you guys, it's like if I make a card without splatter and bling, the next one needs extra splatter and bling to make up for it. So I have some Studio Caudiat Storm Cloud and Cafe au lait pearls. Absolute favorites. The Cafe au lait with the shimmer that's on the pearls, it goes so nicely with Desert Storm cardstock. I've mentioned this in other videos, and I was like, yes, like they're just must-haves. And the Storm Clouds, I don't know what it is. There's something about these gray pearls. Again, that iridescent shine on them. I'm like, oh, I love. So used extras of those on this card just because I could. So I'm going to adhere those into place with dabs of craft tacky glue. And then once these are adhered, this card is complete. So just fun, just die cutting and some 3D embossing, still snuck in a bit of splatter, bling, all the fun things. Like I said though, I will have a link below the video to my blog post. In my blog post, I'll have a link to the Color Throwdown Challenge if you guys want to check it out. I will also, of course, link to all the supplies I used. That'll be in the description box below, as well as over on my blog, so you can just check that out if you're interested. Thank you all so much for watching, for subscribing, thumbs upping, commenting, all of it. I very much appreciate it. And I will see you all very soon in the next video. Bye!